So explain to me from the mechanics standpoint. We have a TABOR limit we just talked about on how much revenue we can keep and budget. So from a calendar standpoint, when do you know what the TABOR number is as we look at the budget for 2020?
So, Commissioner, that's one of the challenges we face because the TABOR factors, as we saw earlier, are based on the inflation factors, CPI, and local growth. Some of those factors we don't have until well into the year that it's intended to limit. So we have to do estimates and forecasts based on historical factors. Typically, we will see those final figures come in sometime late spring within the year that it's already applying to.
So we won't know the TABOR number for 2020 until well into 2020.
That's correct.
Okay.
A quick follow-up question. You had mentioned, Crystal, that none of the fund balance is being used, and we heard our county manager talk a little bit earlier about the fact that we're at 2 months for our general revenue fund. I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about some of the history behind, briefly, how we got here, the ratcheting down of the mill levy, the thinking behind that by previous Board of County Commissioners, and then the drawing upon the reserves, which brings us to where we are today. Because some may say, well, how do we get to this place of $16.1 million? And we've touched on it in different ways, but I'm wondering if you could just provide a quick historical perspective on that, which helps to further explain this.
Okay. All right, I'll try to break this down into some small sound bites. When TABOR came into effect in 1992, the county's mill levy was locked in at 25.584. And there were some different votes that took place over time related to the library that adjusted the mill levy. Between 2000 and 2015, Jeffco boards lowered the mill levy every year. And often it was to the tune of about $10 million. And I'll just, point out when we were talking a few minutes ago about not giving salary increases. During those years, we were still lowering the mill levy voluntarily. Okay. Yeah, $10 million per year. Sorry about that. In 2002, the Jeffco board voluntarily and permanently reduced the mill levy by 0.5 mils. So that cannot be recovered. And there were some the developmentally disabled mill levy was set at 1, and it was removed from TABOR limits. And then in 2016, the library mill levy was approved by the voters at 4.5 mils, and it was removed from the TABOR limits. And that brings us to our current mill levy of 21.478. Now, since 2015, up until 2015, those reductions were all voluntary. But when 2015, 2016 came around, we were hitting the TABOR limits, so we had to reduce the mill levy in order to stay within the TABOR requirements. And in that time period between then and now, we've reduced the mill levy to the approximate amount is $111 million. So would you like more information, Commissioner?
No, and was it in around 2015 that additional costs, one-time costs, came forward as well that the Board of County Commissioners had to work through, right. And that's where drawing down on the reserves to help pay those one-time costs.
Right. In about 2008 to 2010, in that time frame, the boards began to realize that the county needed more money, that we were not able to cover the expenditures the way that we wanted to, but they did not want to put an additional burden on the public, the taxpayers, because we were in the middle of the recession or recovering from the recession. So in order to meet those needs, the boards decided to start spending down the fund balance to pay for those one-time infrastructure types of investments.
Thank you.
All right. So once again, as with the previous revenue